So, my cousin Serafina, who's 27, started dating my ex-boyfriend Orion, who's 29 2 years ago. I'm 27 too. I had been with Orion for 3 years. We started dating after he graduated, while I was in my second year of college. We stayed together for 3 years and broke up a couple of weeks after my 20th birthday. It wasn't a good relationship, and I regret it was my first serious one. On paper, we seemed perfect, but in reality it was different. Orion was really insecure and controlling. He wouldn't let me do anything on my own, like going out with friends or talking to my male friends. He always kept tabs on me. Whenever I didn't do what he wanted, he would manipulate and gaslight me into thinking I was the problem. I was desperate to keep him, so I bent over backward for him, but it still wasn't enough. He ended up dumping me, saying things weren't working out, and then blocked me so I couldn't contact him. I tried hard to reach him, but he was gone. Within 2 months, I heard he had already moved on to his next girlfriend. That was a colossal waste of my time, and I really don't like him. We had no contact for some time after the breakup. When I turned 25, he unblocked me and wished me a happy birthday. I didn't respond and thought it was weird. By then I had moved on and was with someone else. He kept texting me, even without a response, so I had to block him. We didn't speak for a few months again. Then, a few months after my birthday, Serafina invited me over. When I got to her house, she introduced me to Orion. She told me he had been texting me earlier to make things right before introducing him. They had met through work and were serious about each other. Serafina and I have been really close since childhood, so this was a shock. She knew we didn't get along and that he was toxic to me. I was very taken aback. Serafina asked me to give it a chance, but it was too much for me. I wanted to be happy for her, but Orion had caused me a lot of pain. It was my first serious relationship, and he ruined it for me. I held a major grudge against him for how he treated me. I tried to be respectful when I told Serafina that. Although I wanted her to be happy, I couldn't handle the fact that she was now with Orion. I didn't think I wanted to be part of her life anymore. Serafina was really upset and tried to reach out to me several times, but I couldn't accept it. She knew exactly how toxic Orion had been for me and how much trauma he caused, yet she still chose to date him. She kept insisting he had changed and was a better person now, but I didn't buy it. Serafina was free to have him in her life, and I had no problem with that. I just had the right to cut them both out of mine. It was a tough decision, especially since Serafina and I were not only cousins, but also very close friends. However, I had to do it for my own sake. After she told me about dating Orion, I stopped talking to her. For the past 2 years we've been distant. She started acting cold towards me once she realized I wasn't going to engage with her. I don't blame her for that. We would see each other at events and just ignore one another, which was a big change from the close relationship we used to have. I was okay with this distance. Everyone has their own life and freedom to make their own choices. I had no issue with her doing what she wanted. I just didn't want to interact with her. But Serafina seemed to take it personally. She started bad-mouthing me to other family members and tarnishing my image, which I found unnecessary. I would never do that to her. Over the past year, Serafina has been spreading false rumours, claiming I was the reason for my breakup with Orion and accusing me of lacking morals. She and Orion have been telling people that I flirted with other boys while with Orion, making him possessive and controlling. In reality, it was the other way around. Orion was overly friendly with other women and expected me to accept it, while he couldn't handle me having male friends, even though I kept things strictly platonic. He constantly manipulated and gaslit me into cutting people out of my life. I found their attempts to damage my reputation with family offensive, but I was too busy with my own life to care about their gossip. Besides, no one really believed their stories, so I was fine ignoring it. I knew that reacting would only give them what they wanted, so I stayed silent. I considered putting an end to it all by speaking to my aunt, who is a federal court judge, and my dad's older sister. I knew she would handle it properly and wouldn't do anything underhanded. Despite not being close to Serafina, I was still in touch with her mother, who I trusted to sort things out. However, I was aware that Serafina would face consequences, as she was financially dependent on her mother and her new jewellery line wasn't doing well. I didn't want to burden her with these petty issues, so I decided to handle it myself and see what kind of ridiculous rumours they would come up with next. My other cousins kept me updated on what Serafina was saying behind my back, which became a source of amusement for me. 6 months ago, Serafina and Orion got engaged and announced their wedding date. My parents received an invitation, but I didn't. I wasn't surprised and wouldn't have gone even if I had been invited. The wedding happened 3 days ago, and it was just another day for me. However, my phone soon flooded with messages from family members, all talking about a speech Serafina and Orion gave at the wedding. I was confused until my parents called and filled me in. Apparently, Serafina and Orion used the wedding to make a terrible speech about me, spreading as many nasty rumours as they could. They wanted to turn the family against me, and they might have succeeded if I hadn't been prepared. Though they didn't mention me by name, their vague references to an ex-girlfriend clearly pointed to me. They repeated old rumours, claiming I was a flirt and a gold digger who relied on Orion for money. None of this was true. I was just a college student and couldn't afford to be wasteful, so I never demanded that Orion take care of me financially. In fact, I always made sure to split the costs on our dates and never expected him to pay for anything. The worst accusation they made about me was that I had cheated on him, which supposedly ended our relationship. At the wedding, they even said they were relieved I wasn't there and claimed they didn't want such a negative influence around. They gave the family an ultimatum: either invite me to events or them, but not both. When people started texting me about it, I was furious. My parents told me that they had left the wedding early because they couldn't tolerate Serafina's speech. My aunt was baffled by the claims and questioned whether Serafina's story was true since it didn't match my character. She was right. I hadn't done what they claimed, and it was understandable for her to doubt Serafina's honesty. After learning what was said in the speech, I decided to set the record straight. I dug through old messages and found screenshots from when Orion was particularly toxic. He had said awful things like wishing he had never dated me and that he had wasted 3 years of his life with me, despite having other options. There was no mention of cheating, and if I had cheated, he wouldn't have let it slide so easily. I found even older messages showing his toxic behaviour and posted all the screenshots online without any explanation. I thought the messages would speak for themselves, and they did. After I posted them, people began reaching out, confirming that they knew the accusations weren't true. It felt odd to be portrayed that way, especially since everyone knew me since I was a child. The screenshots clearly showed that the accusations were false. Knowing my family was on my side and not theirs was enough for me. Several people even told me that they left the wedding because of the false claims. Serafina and Orion had hoped to turn people against me, but their plan backfired badly. No one was siding with them anymore, not even my aunt. That was a huge blow for them. They reached out to me on the night of the wedding, begging for forgiveness. Apparently, after seeing the screenshots, my aunt had talked to them and expressed her disappointment. She was upset that Serafina had been dishonest and tried to ruin my reputation just because she couldn't stand that I had cut her off for dating my ex-boyfriend. Most guests had already left due to the drama. My aunt told Serafina that she was deeply disappointed and expected better behaviour. She said she would cut Serafina and Orion out of her life until Serafina apologised and I forgave her. Serafina tried to convince my aunt not to do this, as she depended on her financially. But my aunt decided to cut her off, leaving Serafina worried about her future. That night, Serafina and Orion called me, apologizing and asking me to take down my post and speak to my aunt. They knew they couldn't manage without my aunt's support, especially with Serafina planning to shut down her business and take a break. I was too upset to agree. I refused to take down the post and blocked them. Since then, they've been desperately trying to contact me and change my mind. I'm torn about what to do. My aunt is a very principled woman. The day after the wedding, she called to apologize for Serafina's actions. I assured her that I didn't want my issues with Serafina to affect our relationship, and I still don't. I believe if I speak to my aunt, I could help mend things for Serafina, but I feel she should handle her consequences herself. Yet I also feel like a jerk for not helping when I could. I'm really conflicted. So, am I the asshole for not convincing my aunt to forgive my cousin after her awful speech about me at her wedding with my ex-boyfriend? Update. Hi everyone, thanks for the support. Before diving into the update, I want to clarify something. My parents, like many older family members, attended the wedding without knowing the full extent of the rumours about me. Serafina and Orion had mainly spread their lies among our cousins and peers, keeping the older generation in the dark. My parents attended out of respect for my aunt, even though they were aware of some tension between Serafina and me. I didn't mention any of this to my parents because I didn't want to involve them in these petty issues. I've always tried to rise above that, but clearly Serafina and Orion did not. My parents were unaware of what was happening, which is why they attended the wedding. There's no need to question or blame them. Once the older generation found out about the lies being spread, they chose to distance themselves. I'm no longer in contact with Serafina or Orion, so everything is fine on that front. It's been a week since the wedding, and I've blocked Serafina and Orion on all platforms. Despite this, they keep creating new accounts and sending me emails. They're desperate, but I've decided not to get involved or help them. I've stayed in touch with my aunt, who has made it clear she will only support Serafina again if I forgive her. Honestly, I don't feel the need to forgive her. For a whole year, I stayed silent while they spread lies about me, hoping they'd move on. Now they have to face the consequences. Serafina is in her late 20s and should be able to handle her own life. It's not like she's uneducated or incapable. She's just been too lazy to hold down a job. I thought she'd grow out of it, but she hasn't. In a way, not getting support from my aunt might be a wake-up call for her. I've discussed my decision with my parents to ease my own guilt, and they agree that I'm justified in my choice. They believe it's up to me whether or not to forgive her. LS still has a decent job and can support them if needed. Overall, I've talked to my parents, friends, and you all, and most agree that I shouldn't feel guilty. I've removed the post because it's no longer necessary. Everyone in the family knows what happened. It's simpler to take it down rather than try to explain it to my followers. I'm focusing on myself now, trying to let go of the anger and guilt. I've returned to meditating and dealing with things in a calm way. I hope Serafina and Orion start to improve their lives and stop making me the focus of their problems. Update 2. Hi, it's been a month since the wedding. From what I hear, Serafina and LS are back to their old tricks. My aunt is still not speaking to them because I haven't forgiven them yet. Their apology seemed insincere. They were just trying to get money from my aunt. After a few days of pleading with me to forgive them and get my aunt to talk to them, they gave up. They're now spreading rumours that I'm trying to ruin their relationship with my aunt to keep all the inheritance for myself. It's absurd since my parents are well off, and I have a decent job. I'm doing fine on my own and don't need to worry about inheritance. Despite this, they keep bringing it up whenever they run into family members in public, which happens often because we all live in the same city. People are avoiding them, but they still can't stop talking about me. I'm baffled by their obsession, especially since I've been ignoring them for the past month. Last week I told my aunt about this, and she confirmed she wouldn't reconcile with Serafina, even if they apologised. She blocked Serafina again, which only made them more furious. They created another fake email account to send me an angry message threatening to make me pay for what happened. I'm not scared, but find it inconvenient, so I warned them that any funny business would lead to a police report. I hope that deters them, but I also have a good security system just in case. Update 3. 4 days ago, I got an email from Orion and Serafina saying I'd face consequences for my actions. Despite my warning about involving the police, they did something incredibly stupid last night. They tried to break into my house. Serafina knows I have a top-notch security system, so I was alerted as soon as they attempted to open my door around 1 a.m. I called the police, and they arrived within 15 minutes. Orion and Serafina were caught trying to flee on bikes. They claimed they just wanted to talk and intimidate me, which doesn't look any better to the police. Serafina started crying and begging me not to press charges once she was handcuffed, but I didn't feel any sympathy. You can't keep messing up and expect forgiveness. Orion glared at me with pure hatred, but I'm used to that. I went back to sleep since I had work in the morning. This morning I told my aunt and parents what happened. My aunt already knew because Serafina used her phone call to try to get my aunt to bail her out, but my aunt refused. Now I'm planning to press charges and get a protective order against them. I don't want anything